Psalm 139, and I'm probably going to put a little bit of a twist on it here. I know it's a lot of scripture, and I'm going to go through it, not a verse at a time, because we'll be here till Thursday, but we're going to go through it 3 or 4 verses at a time, and try and understand what David is saying, what David is trying to teach us through this, what David is admitting about his own life, and what he's opening himself up to. It says, "O Lord, you search me and know me. You know when I sit down, you know when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether." That amazes me, because there's stuff that comes out of my mouth that I say, where did that come from? And God knew it beforehand. David begins by showing us how clearly he understands God. And he gives him honor for it. How he knows everything about us, even before we know it. He is God. That's for me, that's a big point. It was a big thing to learn in my life that God is God, even when I don't believe it. God is God, even when I don't see it. God is God, even when I don't want to listen. God is God. And he doesn't need me to believe in him to be God. He's just God. I am. You tell him I am sent you. Pretty powerful words. He knows where we're going while we're still sleeping. We might think while we're going in the morning, when we lay down, but really how often does that get changed? We make these big plans for the next day. We're all different. And we all have different ways of seeing things and different ways of doing things and he knows every one of them. And just put that in context of this room. He knows every one of our thoughts right now. I can't remember that crazy movie where the guy, God Almighty.
Bruce Almighty.
Bruce Almighty, that's I knew some of that. And at one point, the guy that idiot that's playing a character, anyway, he's hearing people's prayers. And finally, he sets up a computer program because it would be easier to hear everybody's prayers. And then he just answers yes to all. And so everybody wins the lottery, and it was just going really wacko. And then, because God was taking a holiday, and that was the idea. God was putting him in charge for a while, and he was in Buffalo. And so he says, okay, you think you can handle it? Because he's cursing him about it, and he says, you're doing a terrible job, and I can do better. So all of a sudden, God's standing in front of him, and it's, what's the name of the place?
Jim Carrey.
Morgan Freeman. He's part of God, and he says to Jim Carrey, okay, I'm going on holidays, you run things. And he walks away. Actually, I think he walks across the water when he walks away. But anyway, so when they get back together, Jim Carrey says, I can't do it. He says, to hear the prayers of all the world. And Morgan Freeman says, no, I only gave you to 34th Street. And I know it's a comedy, but I think, yeah. How vast are you, God? That, just... Okay, I've got to stop. I was going to say something, but... just to hear... Okay, I'll do it this way. How many times have you sat down with someone and they... one of those people that expresses their thoughts every 3 seconds? That's Sam. Put 100 of them. Put 1 million of them. One of the things I got a kick out of Facebook, and I didn't do Facebook until just a little while ago, and I really don't do a lot of it. I go there to contact people when I need to. But there's this place where you can update your status. And people are like updating their status when they go to the bathroom. What would it be like to listen to 60 million of those? God knows our every thought. All of us. All the time. Incredible doesn't even begin to describe it. He says, you hem me in, behind and before you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is too high. I cannot attain it. Where shall I go from your spirit, or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol or depths of hell, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. David knows that God knows, and knows our belief and our connection with Him. He knows what our motives are. He knows when we are in peril, God's hand is with us. You know, we talk about Jesus walking on water. I've already mentioned it once this morning. But Peter walked on water, right? And when Peter started to sink, he cried out. He starts to look at the world, he starts to look at the waves and the wind and the thunder and lightning, and he starts to sink. Because the world will make you sink. You focus on the world too much and you'll start to sink. And he starts to sink and he says, Lord, help me. And instantly, Jesus reaches out his hand. You know, there's no hesitation. It's like, just try harder, Peter. He takes his hand. You know, God's hand is with us. We all know that if we go to heaven, we will see God there. But David says, even if I go and try and hide in hell, you're there. And you know what? I tried to find out what is meant by that. I think I spent 2 hours researching that, and nobody will give an answer. What do you mean by that? And so I came to my own conclusion. That even if I try and hide in hell, God sees me. And David is using this to help us understand that we are never beyond God's reach. We are never beyond God's knowledge. We are never beyond God's protection if we so desire. He also makes a very strong point that we almost overlook. If I make my bed in the depths. And the words I'm looking at here are, I make my bed. The choice is ours, right? We live in a world who want us to believe there's no God, there's no God, there's no God, there's no God. Somebody takes a gun and goes nuts. And everybody starts blaming it on God. You know, that's just the world we live in. And all of a sudden it's all God's fault. We make choices. The decision is ours. We can't blame it on anyone else. Free will is a wonderful gift given to us by God, and it also gives us the responsibility on us too. Right? As parents, as our kids get older, we start giving them more responsibility, but the consequences to those actions are theirs. If we try to teach our kids one thing, is there's consequences to every action, good or bad consequences. You're making decisions, and you know, Brenda and I played good cop, bad cop, and I always got to be the good cop. Brenda's natural tendency is to tell the kids what's going to happen, or what could happen, I should say. What could happen, you know? Kid comes home and says, well, I'm buying a car. You know, that car could break down. Are you going to have money to fix it? Do you know how much insurance can cost? and they're pointing at each other over there. But you know what? My kids never went into stuff like that blindly. And we need to understand that for ourselves sometimes. We're making decisions every day. And there will be consequences. And go right back to kids. One of the things that frustrates me the most is people that have been in church their whole life, and their heart's desire is that their children would come to faith. And when that doesn't happen, they walk away. And I think all those years of witness and investment, if it's not real for you, don't expect it to be real for them. Billy Graham's testimony, I didn't know that was going to come up, but it was real to Billy, because Billy could have stood on the porch and said, listen, I told you not to marry. And he would have been right. Marriage the last 5 weeks shouldn't have happened, right? But what did he say? Welcome home, my daughter. Because that's the life he lived. That was his ministry. That was his heart. It was real to him. And I really don't think you need to worry about what people are going to say about you. Sometimes. I really don't. Me, on the other hand. The world has an attitude of, you made your bed, now lay in it. And God, David says that's true, but even there, God's there. Even in that situation, God's there. I think of my life and where I had chosen to be, and I think of how it must have broken God's heart to see me and see what I was doing, and yet He stayed with me. We're a denomination that believes in prevenient grace. If you took a membership course with me, I hope I taught you a little bit about prevenient grace. Prevenient grace is basically the grace that God extends to us before we even know He's there. And prevenient grace has been big in my life. I think about it. There were times when I was maybe doing the right things, but my heart was as black as coal. We're going to church, and we have on our smiling faces, but our hearts are full of hatred and anger, and we're looking at everyone else with spite. I don't think that really pleases God. When we run away from churches because people aren't doing what we want, God is still with us. He doesn't agree with what we're doing, but He will never abandon us. If I think about the fact that God was always there and knew my actions and thoughts, it terrifies me. Verse 11 and 12, if I say, surely the darkness shall cover me and the light about me be night, even in the dark, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as day, for darkness is as light with you. When I was a kid, I grew up on Prince Albert Street. Prince Albert Street is the street that when you're coming down past the hospital and you come to the corner with the cemeteries and right, it's that one street ahead of you. It's a dead-end street. It was the longest dead-end street in Ormstown. And at one point we counted there was 98 kids living from one corner to the other, like to the end of the street. And every night in the summer, we played hide-and-go-seek at our place on the corner of Prince Albert and Barrington. Johnny Rennie had this big yard because he had a business there, and there was a telephone pole stupidly placed in the middle of his yard, and that was base. And every night, all the kids would go to the corner, and we, because we lived on the corner, and we would play hide-and-go-seek. And I know that when things happen when you're a kid, they seem bigger than they actually are, but there always seemed to be at least 50 kids playing. It was incredible. My mother makes iced tea, and she'd go through gallons and gallons every night of iced tea. And I always had a place to hide. I mean, what would the game be if you didn't have a place to hide, right? See, I was a good climber. And I would sit up in a tree or on the roof of a house. No, really, I could scale walls. It was amazing.
Fireman.
Yeah, and I would just watch the game go by. I would hide in the dark and watch the game happen before me. I always wanted to be the last one in. You see, everybody's a little afraid of the dark, or what's hiding in the dark. We fear the dark, yet we feel safe when we use it to hide ourselves. You see, even there, God is there, and He sees that too. He sees when we choose to hide in the dark. What we think we are doing under the cover of darkness, God sees. And sadly, when we choose to sit in the dark and hide from God and are feeling safe, it's probably when we're in the most danger. You see, the point of the game is to get home safe before you get caught. And I wonder how many of us are hiding in the dark right now and thinking that there's all kinds of time to get home safe and are refusing to head in. And the question is, how many of us will get caught? We're studying Revelation on Wednesday nights, and I agreed to this, not really knowing what I was getting into, but because there's not a lot of studies out there on Revelation, so you've got to kind of make your own. But what I'm learning is, you want to have all your little ducks in a row. Don't get caught out in the dark. Then David goes on to talk about God the Creator. For you formed me, you formed my inward parts, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there were none of them. How often do we go to God or someone else? No, how often do we go to God or does someone else go to God saying or thinking that God doesn't know our situation? Do you realize saying to God, you don't know what I'm going through, is ridiculous after reading those words? He sees our every move. He knows our every thought. He knew us before we were created. He Himself created us. And He knows every detail about us and our little lives. So who are we hiding from when we're hiding? And that story that lie that we're telling about evolution, you know, the world says to us, if you don't believe in evolution, you're being deceived. and so here's evolution. I've done this before. Some people like it, so I'll do it again. Evolution says that after so many billion years, something crawled out of the swamp. Evolution can't tell you how the swamp got there, but something crawled out of the swamp. And it stood on the banks and waited for one of the opposite sex to crawl out. Right? Because if just one crawled out, it's over. Must have been Trump. See what gallery's going today. It's all being recorded, you know. But that's what evolution wants us to believe, that something crawled out of the swamp. And then another one of the opposite sex, but identical, crawled out of the swamp and procreated. That's the theory. And then other species crawled out of the swamp and waited for one like it with the opposite sex. And this is what this is the truth of evolution. And I just kind of shake my head and go, who's being deceived? How precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. I did a whole bunch of highlighting here because what do we usually think about as people? We think about now. We think about here. We think about us. We think about our needs, our wants, self-desires. And then, because this is all about God's thoughts. Because in verse 18 it says, if I would count them, they are more than the sand. But what are God's thoughts? God thinks about us. God thinks about our future. God thinks about our protection. God planned for our salvation. God's concerned about the lost and the needs of others. You see the difference? They are all in concern for others. 19 and 20. Oh, that you should slay the wicked, O God. O men of blood, depart from me. They speak against you with malicious intent. Your enemies take your name in vain. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? Do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with complete hatred. I count them my enemies. David is saying that my life would be a lot easier if you would just wipe out all the bad people. If only the world were just full of good people who love and follow you. So the question is, would that be church people? People who follow your ways? If only. And I've said all this to lead up to these last two verses. Because really, these last two verses, for me, say it all. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me. Now this is a scary thing to say to God. Because I spend a lot of time focusing on other people's faults. But that's not what David is asking. That's not what David is giving permission to God to do. He doesn't say, search them, O God, and fix them. Search me and fix me. It doesn't say, God, get them all straight, get them all straightened out, and then bring them into the church. Say, fix me. Search me. And if you really read it properly, he says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try and know my thoughts. See if there be any grievous way in me. And lead me in the way everlasting. You see there's two ways? We'll get to it. Saying, look at my life. Look at my heart. Lead me in the right way. Show me. Teach me. Correct me. Guide me. If I'm hiding in the dark, call me on it. To say test me to God is, watch that one. Are we ready to come out of the dark? As a people? As a church? Because reality is, this isn't a game. I remember a pastor that we had preaching a sermon. He was in the military. And he preached a sermon about something a general had said, or a colonel had said to them before a battle. And he said, I want everybody to concentrate on their 1 square foot. And if you concentrate on your 1 square foot, and the guy beside you concentrates on his 1 square foot, and the guy on the other side concentrate on his 1 square foot, we'll win this battle. That's all I remember about the sermon. I realize a lot of my ministry and a lot of my time, a lot of my energy has been focused on the other guy's square foot. And really, I need to focus on my square foot. I need to let God search me. I need to let God know me. I need to let Him show me the stuff that I'm hiding in the dark. The 2 ways. See if there be any grievous way in me. Now I looked it up. In the NIV it says offensive way. NASB says hurtful way. King James says wicked way. There's another one that says evil way. See if there be any evil way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Obvious to me that there are 2 ends of the spectrum, right? There's the evil way, and there's the everlasting way. I want to read this out of the Message translation. Investigate my life, O God. Find out everything about me. Cross-examine. Now, you know what? I just experienced that cross-examine. I just had to go to the court for a district thing, and I was brought up and asked a bunch of questions about stuff that was going on in the situation, and okay, that was pretty easy. And my lawyer had said to me, he said, okay, it's just, answer the stuff that you know, and if you don't know, say I don't know. And, okay, so I did. But then his lawyer, this other gentleman's lawyer, got to cross-examine me. That's a scary thing. Because he asked me the same question about 5 times. Finally, the judge said, he's answered you. Like, move on. The answer's no. To say to God, cross-examine and test me. Like, this is what I'm saying now. Now, question me about what I just said, and then test me on it. We did a Bible study a few years ago now, the Truth Project. And it was a pretty in-depth study, but that line still haunts me. Do we really believe what we believe to be really real? In other words, you say you're a Christian, you say God created you, you say you're living for God. Really? So put that in that, then test me on it. Cross-examine and test me. Get a clear picture of what I'm about. See for yourself whether I'm doing anything wrong, and guide me on the road to eternal life. Let me read that all in one thing now. It says, investigate my life, O God. Find out everything about me. Cross-examine and test me. Get a clear picture of what I'm about. See for yourself whether I've done anything wrong. Then guide me on the road to eternal life. Wow, that's powerful. To stand before God and say that. All the grievous ways must be removed if we're ever going to find the everlasting way. There are 2 ways. And there are 2 destinations. The only reason we have that option of the everlasting way is through the sacrifice on the cross. We're going to do communion. And we're a small group today, so that's all. But we're going to do communion. But I want you to think about that fact. There are two ways because of the cross. There is hope because of the cross. There is salvation because of the cross. And just like the little story we heard about Billy Graham's funeral, Jesus' arms on the cross are saying, "Welcome home, my children."